Thank you for joining XROM, India's first AR/VR focused podcast. I'm your host, Eddie Avil, and today I'm delighted and honored to have with me Mr. Lucky Gobindram, who's an innovation driven technology executive with experience in full life cycle product development, business strategy, and team building. He serves as the general manager at CXR Agency, an award winning multi-disciplinary creative agency based out of New York. He's a futurist and a lecturer for topics relating to the change in social capital, when and why to build an application, practical applications of augmented and virtual reality, and the next minute app gold rush. So, Lucky, really appreciate you taking time being part of the podcast. We know each other since 2017, 2018. That's the first time I think we had a conversation that was regarding,
Been some time, Eddie,
yeah,
for sure.
exactly, the festival that we were building over here. At that point in time, you're with Centrix. Now you're with
Correct.
CXR Agency. Will be great if you
Correct.
could, talk us through the journey from Centrex to CXR Agency.
Oh, Eddie, it starts way before Semtrex, candidly. So, we were youths when we started getting into technology and building. My brother Ashwin and I, grew up in the home of an inventor. Our father was an engineer who specialized in novelty electronics. So you may have seen things over the years. It might be the Mickey Mouse telephone or the Jeep boombox or all these fun electronics that took America and the world by storm through the 80s and 90s, right? And popped up in a lot of pop culture references in movies. So, he was always building, he owned that company, and he always told me and my brother to learn to code, have empathy, and all these good things. Today, I don't know if I tell my kids to learn to code, I tell them to learn to use AI. Right? He nurtured it, right? And, as youth, my brother was more into it than me. He convinced my dad to buy him a laptop. I remember the IBM ThinkPad early on when my dad gave us them, and there were DOS cans and prompts. And, we went through his cycles, right? And then when we were in high school, he started coding for fun and building websites for hire. And, after college and through another business we built and sold, right, we decided that we were going to start building software formally. Um, so this is like almost 16 years ago now, Eddie. And, it was called One Arm Bandit, and we started building our own IP, iPhone 2, App Store 1, right? And, we quickly realized enterprises didn't understand what mobile first was, what to build mobile, and we, had relationships at those organizations and needed support. So quickly, our focus changed from building our own IP to helping enterprise build their IP and serving as a consultant, strategist, design house, engineering, full stack these things for them, and then providing, a life cycle of DevOps to support them through, service level agreements and business critical software, right? And that's taken many lives over the last 15, 16 years. It was from One Arm Bandit to the agency OAB to being sold to Semtrex to spinning it back private to CXR Agency, right? It's gone through many forms, but consistently, Ash and I have been driving that ship together and, at the forefront of technology, having fun doing it.
Lovely. More power to you and your brother. And it's so cool to have like a father to look up to who's been in the technology space. I mean, it serves as the breeding ground of, curious minds. And I guess that's what has been spawned with Ashwin and you. So really cool. Will you be able to kind of give us a definition of spatial computing, because over the years technologies have like gone through its various hype
Yeah,
cycle. We was virtual reality, then was an umbrella term called extended reality, and then meta rebranded, and then it was metaverse, and now nobody wants to even talk about metaverse, and suddenly it's become
dirty
spatial
word.
computing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it will be great if you could give us a lowdown on what you think, or spatial computing is.
So, okay, I'm gonna define this in the sense of spatial computing in the terms of what Apple is looking at it today, right? Because I think they are owning the word spatial. Now, I don't think that's the only path, candidly, Eddie, right? I think, Meta has very different philosophy. I don't think neither are right. I think they both have very, very strong positives and also some drawbacks in both their approaches today. But we'll see the convergence and the shift together, right, in different ways. But so spatial computing is not just a buzzword, in my opinion. It represents a systematic in how we interact with digital content, right? It's about merging the digital and physical worlds, creating a three-dimensional space where users can interact with digital elements as if they were physically present. So this technology is revolutionizing industries, transforming user experiences, and redefining engagement, right? So that's how I look at spatial. I put on my AVP, right? And I think about the true definition of spatial, right? And what spatial can do and how we're interacting when we're using an AVP, right? You could spin the crown, all of a sudden I'm fully immersed and I'm back into my world. And I could see my children. I could pin things in my house, whether it's like notes on my fridge, and where I leave my windows, as long as I don't change my environment, they stay, right? And I think it's blurring, right? And it's meant to blur. As it gets more compact, you're gonna see how it impacts your everyday, interactions and living and communication and every aspect, right? And you could tune it in as much as you want, or I'm sure you can dial it out as much as you want also, right?
How cool is that? I think we're seeing the first glimpse of what the world is going to look like when we move from carrying technology to wearing technology, and where the world will become exactly like the virtual world uh, will be, or possibly maybe your interface will emulate our physical world, because if we live in a 3D world, but all our interfaces restrict us to like a 2D interface. It's all flat, whether it's your TV screen, whether it's a theater, whether it's a newspaper. Everything restricts us to a 2D world, and I think these devices will help us break out and experience things completely like how we experience in a physical world. So exciting space, because I think we won't need our phones, we won't need our computers, because these HMDs will pack all of those into our head wearable devices, and wherever we look, we won't even need a TV, because I think wherever we look, the world becomes a screen, an interface. So I think exciting place that we are going into. Now you are mentioning that coding is something you might not tell your children to do, or take up as a profession, and that seems to be like, I mean, what these AI scientists, AI researchers are also saying, that coding might get redundant. The reason I'm saying this is because agencies have gone through their various ups and downs. Earlier it was like everything was physical. When you create a a content piece, a TV commercial, a radio spot. It was distributed in a very analog way. Then came the digital world, and
Sure.
everything got disrupted. How do you think?
Absolutely.
How do you think is the ad industry gearing up against the challenges of this physical to digital transition? The first one, immersive technologies, and this new thing, artificial intelligence, where we've gone to the world where we can actually do text to image, text to 3D, text to design, text to code, text to world building.
Yeah, it's only going to get richer, right? I mean, I don't know if you even noticed, like, Apple released their MM1 AI research paper on multimodal technology last Friday, right? And like, they've been dormant and quiet, a sleeping giant just sitting there, right? But all of a sudden it's like, this is what we meant to see the whole time, right? But like the point is, right, when you start thinking about way the world is shaping and shifting, right? It is naive to think that the paradigms of today and how we build will not be disrupted, right? And you want to teach the future generations to use technology and build on technology and think about how they can further technology, right? Like, and you got to think about every cycle of growth in the world, right? From different revolutions and whatnot, right? And where we are as a leader in the ecosystem. I think this goes bigger than that, right? Because I look at this and, I'm very America first. I'm born and raised here, right? And I think about we are the industry technology leaders today. We breed the best and brightest, and the best and brightest come here to build it, right? And you think about where was that competitive advantage, like say in the previous revolutions, right? It was like, oh, well, we were the only people who could make a car at that scale, right? And that's why America had this competitive advantage and whatnot, right? Today, our advantage is technology. So we got to think about innovating on greater levels, right? As we're doing it, right? So if we're going to teach our youth today what to do next and how to continue to innovate, we need to teach them how to, download the right models, train the right models, use those right tools to create and, disseminate their visions and their businesses and power them, right? So you're not stuck by those legacy paradigms that anchor some of businesses down today because they're married to those principles, right? Or those ways, right? So like, how do you build forward, right? So when I think about those things, I think about like, well, if I told my child, like, you need a website, right? My first instinct wouldn't be hire an agency, right? Be like, dude, you have skills, right? Have the ability to consider different tools, right? Well, what is available to you, right? And if I think of what's available, right, and I think about where we're going with technology, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. So this Peter Thiel just funded this, and they came out of stealth, okay? And when I remember the name, I'll mention it right now. But it was a new AI coder, okay? And the promise of this coder and what it's doing, right? It just like I think it will just change, right? The way like we need to, right? This thing straight promises, and I haven't used it myself, candidly, right? But that it could literally build, a website for you without you needing to actually, have to do more than prompting. Dev,
Definitely.
the Cognition Labs, right? The first AI software engineer.
Right.
And you look at these guys, some of these guys are like still in Harvard. They haven't even got through their undergrad, right? And they're building things like Devin today, was a software AI engineer. And today, if you think about AI, and I've been talking about this at the WP Engines Decode, right? I got a chance to participate in that and their opening keynote. And today it's my co-pilot, it's my sidekick, hence co-pilot, right? It's not the pilot, right? It can't be the pilot yet. It'll take you 75, 80% of the way there. But 10 years from now, we're going to be much closer to AGI than we are today, right? And you know, I'm not a fear monger thinking about AI. It's always going to be how does it make the human better, right? How does it make your life easier? How does it take tasks away from you to give you your more time back and create more productivity and help you make more money? And that's what technology is supposed to do.
True that. I mean, it's a tool that is, but Lucky, I think first time in human history, we've got a tool which is self-learning. So far, I think most of the tech stack has been something
Mm,
is where we kind of program it
it's
and it
it's
doesn't have its own agency. Now,
not yet.
yeah, not yet, not no, yeah, but we coming to a point where we crossing that paradigm where that tech stack that we have created could turn out to be its own species. It's by itself. It could also have its own agency, both in sense of cognition as well as consciousness. So when you talk about AGI, it's yes, maybe it's around the corner. When I say around the corner, maybe this decade, next decade, we can all be speculate about it. Nobody knows about this. But yes, I
Nobody
think
knows.
as a race, we need to be cognizant that there is for the first time in human history, we've got a tool that we are building could turn out to be or overlords or maybe just
No.
uh,
That's all sci-fi baloney. Like it's never gonna become your overlord. And it might just have autonomy to go cut your grass for you, so you don't have to deal with it and it knows to do it. Or you could set it down the path to go, strip the paint off the deck and rehabbing it, right? Or prep the food for dinner, right? There's things that it can do to create time for humans. I see, AGI taking more of that direction, or even if your workload, right? It's like I need to go research 10 things about
That's it.
this
Those
enterprise.
things, it's doing it even now. I mean, those things.
It's doing it based on trained data, not autonomy to actually think and improve and come back to you with things that are going to help you, right? You still need to go in there and be like, hey, I'm doing this and I have this information. So review this and research this. And then afterwards you need to go back and you need to check its work because he might just be hallucinating, right? So like every time you look at AI, it's great, man. It's a great idea starter. It's a great tool today in ways like that. But if you're asking if it can complete a task, no,
Yeah,
it
so
can't.
I think even the hallucination part. I think these retrieval augmented generation is a tool where the hallucinations are decreasing. But like what I'm trying to say is like these things of being like an assistant. It's even now, but I think maybe in the next decade or the decade beyond, what we are building, what we could build is something I don't think we have a complete grasp over it, because even today the AI today we nobody kind of understands, not the top minds of what they're building, because there's something called as black box where underneath the hood, the algorithms, we are completely clueless on how it's got these, what does it do. That's the reason I think there was this paper called by Microsoft after ChatGPT 3. The paper was titled that these large language models are showing sparks of intelligence. Now, what these papers talk about is that underneath the hood of these large language models, there is something which is happening exactly like how we humans are born. When we are born, we experience the world. I think the first couple of months we don't even understand things. It's when we take all the sensory information, that's when we start perceiving the world, and then we get these emergent properties of like understanding the world and kind of. So I think the same thing is happening, but in all fairness, I don't think even the best minds understand what's happening. So when we or when we get to these AGI like things, which we're talking about, like building machines which have human level capabilities or beyond, because I think most of the platforms today, like even like an AlphaGo, AlphaFold, I think are 10 times better than what a single human can perform cognitively, or maybe more. What
Sure,
happens,
yeah.
yeah,
They
when
have
these
more
scales,
intelligence,
yeah,
right?
what happens when these scales into like general purpose intelligent, where
Oh
that,
yeah, you're starting to see it. Look what Figure is doing. They
yeah,
have built a
exactly.
human form factor robot that literally is built with like a
No, but even
as
figure,
visual.
even
Yeah.
figure is using reasoning bit. They're using Chat GPT,
Yeah.
right?
They're using
Yeah,
the OpenAI LLM
yeah,
for this.
exactly. So here we are. I mean, which is, yes, obviously the speech reasoning capabilities of figure is very, very cool, but we still in a very narrow stage. I mean, what would it mean of a machine becoming generally intelligent is something I don't think we really completely understand that, and that's the reason I say that yes,
I
it's
mean, it means
great.
that those 10 million underserved jobs in America would be filled, right? 7 million of those are people that are in essential roles, warehouses, transportation, retail, right? So those things are sitting open and they haven't been filled, right? So the higher attrition rates, it's going to create more stability for businesses. It's going to create, better end customer experiences because it's sustainable. I think there's a lot of benefits to it, right? I think it's also that these things are not going to take away benefits to Americans or humanity in general, right? I think it's gonna create the ability for human populations as generations change to be upskilled, right? And there's new jobs to be created, right? There's more
Completely.
robotics engineers. There's different skills that are gonna be required, right? And like I think we can't look at those jobs that are there. Nobody wants to work those jobs. It's the plain truth, right?
No, no, true, completely. So I think we're already seeing the democratization of technology, accessibility of technology, because these large language models are the first. a road for a common person to kind of tinker around with technology. Because who would
Yeah.
have thought that you would be tinkering around with technology? My son tinkers around with the chat GPT, perplexity AI, when he knows nothing about technology. And I think that's
Yeah.
the cool part, that that
That's
this is the
exactly.
democratization of technology. Yeah, but
This is how
what
it
happened?
changes, right?
Yeah, which is a great thing. But yeah, when we talk about AGI, I'm not really sure what does
Makes most
AG.
people nervous. I'm very
Yeah,
positive on it, to be
yeah,
honest with you.
fair enough.
Um, no, but I guess to me, from my perspective, to bring this back to where we started the
Right.
conversation, right? It's like I see the convergence of all these technologies, right? I don't think it's spatial by itself. And I think spatial actually becomes, AR, VR holistically, right? And it's spatial, right? And you got to be able to go between immersed and not immersed. And then within those worlds, you're going to want the power of, connectivity at all times. So you're going to bring C, 5G, things like that. While you're on a Wi-Fi is good. So now it's accessible wherever you are. You're going to see leanness of form factor. As I always say, the Vision Pro is a DK1, right? Now, what are you going to look like in 3 generations? It's going to look like this or even better. Um, right. And then you take that and then you layer an LLM right at it. And like now it's going with me, it's seeing the world. I have my applications, like it knows my environment, it knows my, it's like all of a sudden it's like, dude, I have like superpowers, right?
True.
And from there, like you start to think the branding experience changes, the marketing lens of somebody changes, right? The retail experience changes, right? The learning experience changes, right? It's like, I have a leak. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, it's telling me what to do. There's somebody there. I'm doing it myself. It's amazing, right? The democratization of learning basic things and complex things, skills in general, right? And then, actually completing tasks. Like and then you start to see how you start layering into other parts of the ecosystem. But, I think, yeah, I think
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
very, very, very exciting. There's a lot of
Exciting.
challenges and ethical considerations, right?
Yeah, but exciting space. So you spoke about XR and this convergence, where XR meets AI, and how it's going to kind of impact branding, marketing, retail, learning. Will be great if you could share some examples, of the works that you're building at CXR, and how is it kind of help these clients achieve their business goals through, some of the works that you built.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we're working on all kinds of things. I'm not going to reference any specific project, but I'll give you ideas and use cases where I see application, okay? So say you're building somebody virtual training for the L&D, program at an enterprise. They are focused on pick your favorite, let's say construction, right? They have in-field, representatives going to residences to assess the job, quote, and sell through that job, right? Okay. Traditionally, you're going to put them in very basic type training, right? What's the traditional way? Ride along, supervisor comes, he does it, he shows you playbook, maybe you get some 2D book, right? Or some videos that you can watch, and they expect you to do that. Now, how much are you paying attention? Minimally. How much are you actually retaining? Minimally, right? It's not very practical. With the technology today, okay, you build experiences where somebody can do that in a learning and development simulation. But take it one step further. That homeowner that you are training on is dynamic. He's an AI powered NPC. Now he has been trained in an LLM. He has all types of data from previous client history and client interactions that you've stored in a data lake or something like that. And now you're taking that data and you're making it useful. So all of a sudden you're going there and you could have all types of things. You could have a customer that is having a panic attack because he's having a massive leak in his house and he doesn't know what to do. Or you can have somebody who just bought a new home and he needs new windows across the whole thing. You need to quote that, right? So like, you have these different personas and you take somebody through the process and what they should do and how they should do it. And that ties into your L&D system, right? And you're just naturally going to see so many benefits as an organization by building something like that. Because one, you're going to have just better employees, right? They're going to have had, on more focus and, in what they're doing, right? So you're going to see ultimately what we're seeing is You put somebody in these types of things, right? You're going to see them have, um, greater satisfaction with their learning experience, right? On average, 11%. You're going to see 275%, I think is the statistic, more confident, trainees or learners. At scale, you're going to save 23,000 per trainee trainer pair. You're going to see 16% improvement in communication, right? You're just going to see it statistically. And what you're looking at, right, by doing this is one, you're creating better informed, better trained people that are going to be highly more successful, right? And the fact that they're going to be more successful, the business is going to be more successful, right? And there's nothing that we're doing today that's going to exceed something like that, right? You can do this in so many other ways. That's not a dangerous situation. Imagine if you do dangerous things like people that are working on oil rigs, right? Or people that are doing things in public service that may be dangerous, or healthcare, right? You know how many devices are in a hospital? And you expect all these nurses to understand every single one. Like they get trained on it, but you want to continue to teach them, or as more of these come into space, right? There was a very interesting study done that was done at was it was done at the Imperial College of London, I believe. Okay, and so they're focusing on this use case of VR for surgical training, right? And the research explored the clinical impact of VR in surgical education, right? Particularly through a training module for a specific hip approach. Okay. And the key findings revealed that 83% of surgeons trained with VR were able to perform the surgery in a lab setting with minimal guidance, which is in stark contrast to traditionally trained surgeons who required more assistance. They were unable to successfully do it, right? So the study suggests that VR training can significantly enhance the surgical preparation, and obviously transferring much of the learning curve outside the operating theater, which is at people's lives and people's risk, right? So you just think about all these things, right? Like these in short order, using AI, using LLMs, using scenario-based learning for complex and simple skills. You're going to either get, democratization of learning the skill, or better at performing than traditional methods, which are today, I hate to say it, failing us and failing
Right.
society and
True.
creating danger.
True, true, true. No, yeah, completely. I double you that, we need to relook into all of these tech, which is augmenting things and creating a better healthcare, better education, better training. And I hope that we transition, because at least what I see here in India is that there is still resistant to immersive technologies or AI, because we are so traditional creatures. I mean, because it's always like a wait and watch game. What has been your experience like, when you're kind of, dealing with these brands and these big institutions and organizations? How
People
open are they?
just so that a lot of the world is wait and watch and see what the big boys are doing and what America is doing or the West is doing, right? So where I'm sitting, in New York and building, it's quite interesting because people are excited, people are thinking outside the box, and they're looking to build complex things with tactical approaches, and they're looking to find ways to inch in, right? We look to divide things into vertical slices, pilot them, be leaner, right? Find that way to do something in a couple $100,000 and then get to the bigger things that impact, right? When we look at something, say like an L&D, we can back into like, the idea of like, well, how much does an enterprise spend today on, learning, right? Okay. And like, well, how much are they spending on SaaS tools for learning? Okay. So like, say they spend, it's like usually an equation that we can run, right, to help them understand, okay, that now that we understand you're spending this much on it, these are what the traditional results you're getting, right? If you take this much, you improve it in this, or this amount of people, you could save on average this much money, right? And you could improve your results this much. And ultimately, if you start looking at the scale, you're going to start saving money to 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 get better results and performance, right? So when you can start showing, the scale of impact to applying these technologies at scale compared to what they're doing today, people are much more receptive to thinking about like, well, how do I take my L&D software spend and do that, right? So you got to think, right? Like large companies defined as like, something more than 10,000 employees spend an average of 22 million annually on training, right? Reflect, this increase year after year, right? If you look like a mid-sized company that's 9,999 employees, they spend around 900,000. Well, it's a small company which is sub 1,000 employees, but more than 100, they spend like 800,000 USD on this, right? And in terms of L&D software and technology, organizations allocate on average about 16% of their budget to these tools. So let's say on like a large company, then it'll translate to about, three to $400,000 a year, right? Um, so you can back into that, right? What they're spending on an average learner, how much time they're training those people, right? In addition to spending on the tools, right? And then the results they're getting, and then the investment, like, and then it's like a no-brainer, right? It's like silliness.
Lucky, really, really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. Will be great if you could leave us behind with your thoughts on how you see immersive technologies, artificial intelligence impacting the world. And if there's somebody who's like a marketeer or brand listening and he's playing a wait and watch game, what would be your advice to him?
Okay, so spatial computing is more than the next step in the technological evolution. It's a paradigm shift in how we interact with the world around us. For brands, it offers a new canvas to connect with consumers, providing immersive experiences that were once the stuff of science fiction. As we venture into this new era, it's crucial for businesses to understand and embrace these technologies, staying ahead in the digital transformation journey.
Really, really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. I think we're sitting in a fantastic point of time. These tech stacks, they are converging. It's no longer just augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality. I think it's all converging with these different tech stacks to power it further. XR is converging with Web3, it's converging with 5G, it's converging with AI, and the benefits it's offering, it's humongous. I think every brand, every marketeer, every institution should look into these technologies to create a narrative so they too are future ready. So really, really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. And to my listeners, if you like what you see in here, then please press the subscribe button. And until next time, see you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.